But right now, here's what I want you to do with those hands. I want you to give a great Rhode Island welcome on this beautiful fall day to a great American, to a great friend, to the Junior Senator from the state of Illinois, to one of the great voices for our party and for our country, Senator Barack Obama.
First of all, I know it's a beautiful fall day, but I'm a kind of skinny guy, so I had to borrow somebody's coat. So this doesn't look like it fits too well. It's because of somebody else's. But it's one of the poor staffer who's shivering over there. That's his coat. I am thrilled to be back in Rhode Island, and you know I had a chance to talk to some of you. What was it, about 3 weeks ago, and just had a wonderful crowd, wonderful excitement, and it was so good I had to come back. And part of the reason I had to come back was also because you guys have some of the finest elected officials right now who are doing great work each and every day. Patrick Kennedy, who's shown so much leadership over on the House side, and we appreciate him. I don't know where he is. And let me tell you about Jack Reed. You know, there are workhorses and there are show horses in the Senate. And I like to think of myself as a workhorse, but sometimes folks tease me about being a show horse. But there's one person who everybody knows, each and every day knows his subject matter, is always on the right side of the issues, is clear about what he does. He doesn't make a lot of fuss about it. He just leads. And there's nobody in our caucus who, when he speaks, is more respected and people pay more attention to than Jack Reed. And I'm proud to be so. And ever since he got married, he's even nicer than he was before. So, you know, his lovely wife's having a softening impact on him. Charlie Fogarty is going to be an outstanding governor for the state of Rhode Island. We appreciate his service. Now listen up. I'm not shilling for books here, but I noticed some people had a book that I just came out with called The Audacity of Hope. And I have to make a confession to everybody right here and now. The title of the book, The Audacity of Hope, that phrase actually appears in the speech that I gave in Boston during the convention 2 years ago, but I have to confess to everybody on the TV cameras that I actually stole this line from my pastor. Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr., who is the pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ on the south side of Chicago. Yeah, this is the south side. I got you. I promise you, this is not what the south side of Chicago looks like. So, about 18 years ago, I graduated from college, and I was interested in working in the community. I'd worked as a journalist for a while. And I'd been inspired by the civil rights movement, and was interested in figuring out how could we bring about change from the bottom up. How could we get people involved and engaged, getting ordinary people to do extraordinary things to change their lives. And I had the opportunity to work with a group of churches on the far south side of Chicago, a community that had been devastated by steel plants that had closed, tens of thousands that had been laid off, homes were in foreclosure, the schools were deteriorating, commercial strips were starting to get boarded up, crime was up, drugs. And so we were there, and I was getting paid the grand sum, I think, of $12,000 a year, and running around and helping to set up job training programs and programs to help young people go to college. And because I was working with churches, I figured, well, I better go to church once in a while. So I went one Sunday to this church. I wasn't then a member, Trinity United Church of Christ. And my pastor, now pastor, delivered a sermon titled The Audacity of Hope. And his premise was very simple. He basically said, you know, it's actually easier to be cynical. It's actually easier when you open up the newspapers and you watch television and you read about war and poverty and injustice to say to yourself, that's the world as it is. It can't change. There's nothing we can do about it. The best we can do is to try to protect ourselves from this tough world out there, to withdraw into our own private lives, to make sure that our immediate families are protected, that we've got a barrier between us and other people. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. He said what's hard, what's difficult, what's challenging, what requires boldness and risk and audacity is to hope. To recognize that the world as we see it before us is not the world as it has to be. That in fact, if we recognize in each other that we have a stake in our mutual well-being, if we have the idea that we have mutual responsibility towards each other, that things can change. And I love that idea. I love that idea not only in my own life, because the basic idea was not that you ignore problems. You don't pretend that poverty doesn't exist or that we don't have problems around the world. You face them squarely, but then you still believe that you can do something about it. I love that for myself. It helped motivate me. But also because I think it describes something about the American character. Because the essence of the American character has been this audacity to hope. You think about 13 little colonies getting together and deciding somehow we're going to defeat the greatest naval power on earth. And then not only are we going to do that, but we're actually going to start a whole new form of government that's never been tried before. By, of, and for the people. And then it turns out that in that charter is the original stain of slavery, and yet people have the audacity to say, well, we don't have to stand for that. And so abolitionists, and then a civil war comes, and Abraham Lincoln signs the Emancipation Proclamation, and for another 100 years, people are marching and singing and organizing until finally people are included in that political community. And women, they turn around and they say, well, how come we can't vote? Why aren't we participating? We know we're smarter than men, and so they get organized, and they get mobilized, and they insist on being full partners in the creation of this nation. And immigrants decide, you know what, we don't know what's going on crazy over there, but we're going to try. We're going to take ships and boats, and we're going to go to this new land. Because we're audacious enough to think we can do better for our children and our grandchildren. And then even though this country has been built on business and entrepreneurship and self-reliance, folks start noticing, sometimes the workers aren't getting such a good deal. So maybe we might need to let them organize unions so that they can get minimum wages and benefits and health care and pensions. And so this idea that we can always make it a little bit better. If we put our shoulder behind the wheel, that's been essential to this country. It's been essential to Rhode Island. That's how we've made progress, each and every generation. And here's the thing. It's not unique to the Democratic Party, that idea. Look, I come from the land of Lincoln. There have been times where Republicans have joined in this march for progress. But I would say that at least since FDR, it's been this idea that we can remake America and we can capture that better energy, that better sense of who we are. That's been at the core of the Democratic Party, which is why we looked and said, FDR was able to look around and say we've got 1/3 of the nation that's ill-housed and ill-clothed and ill-fed. Why can't we begin Social Security to lift seniors out of poverty?